Okay.
Okay. Hello, everyone. We're back. This is Sharon Sananda Kumara, and today we're here with Rich Havas. And welcome, Rich.
Welcome. Thank you.
So we're going to chat with Rich a little bit. Let me read his bio. I'm going to go ahead and read your bio now. Okay, you're like a jack of all trades, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so yes, Rich is he's a multi-talented guy, that's for sure. He's a designer, artist, photographer, healer, energetic, sensitive, an empath, an intuitive, a tarot reader, and does creative carpentry. A guy who in his early teens began to recognize the world was not the way it's supposed to be. He searched for some concept and verbiage that aligned with his seemingly unique awareness, something bigger and more inclusive than what most people seem to be aware of. He is intrigued by the spiritual aspect of life and Eastern philosophies such as Buddhism, Taoism. He has explored palmistry, handwriting analysis, Wiccan, tarot, past lives, reincarnation, out-of-body experiences, ghosts, and UFOs, but also enjoyed exploring architectural design and traditional Japanese home and garden design, and has a degree in graphic design. As his life progressed, he came across energy healing, spirituality, starseeds, and lightworkers. Feeling in an inner alignment, he delved into energy work, energetic sensitivity, and energy healing work. He also began using the tarot for personal clarity and soon began doing tarot and numerology readings for others, as well as offering classes on tarot, numerology, karmic healing, energetic sensitive, or psychometry. As he developed his energy sensitivity and healing work, he became aware of Reiki and in 1997 became a Reiki master. And shortly after, in 1999 and 2001, he channeled, or rather downloaded, his own unique energy healing modality, which he calls 9D High Heart Healing. But Rich has other interests too. He designs, creates, and decorates mini sanctuaries in your yard and home. Spaces and places where he uses all his other abilities, including some feng shui concepts, to help create a delightful space, both visually and energetically. Like I said, he's a multi-talented guy. Okay. Welcome, Rich. So, we've known each other about how long now? 10 years or
Oh, I
so?
think it's actually going on 15 years
Oh, wow. Okay.
overall.
Okay. Yeah, it's been a while. And then, other probably
Time away
hundreds,
and time back.
yeah, thousands of years as
Couple
Starseeds.
millennia back. Yeah,
Totally.
for
Totally.
sure.
Okay. Is there anything you wanted to add to that, to your talents and abilities and what I just read for everyone here?
uh, I think that pretty well covers it. I definitely feel like I'm a multi-talented guy. Can do a lot of things. I don't focus on just one area. I incorporate it all.
Hmm.
Every one of those things has become part of pretty much a daily approach to living. I don't always name it, I don't always claim it to people I'm talking to or working with, but it's the senses and sensitivities are always present.
Right.
So I use them in puzzle solving, I use them in interacting with people, um, deciding when people are not good people to be around and when
Hmm.
they're good people to be around. Um, is it a good business interaction or is it something I want to avoid?
Sure.
Am I doing the right approach to a project, or does something else have to happen? So all those skills, all those abilities are useful in a day-to-day journey for me,
Hmm. Hmm.
and it'd be nice to help other people recognize how much they are available to themselves as well.
Right. Yeah, I was just going to mention that. And we all have our gifts and abilities. I'm sure you would agree with that, that our innate gifts and abilities. And we, because of modern society, perhaps we are taught not to trust our intuition, maybe, or that it's too, you
Or
know,
to ignore it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, and I can attest to what you're saying too. In my life, when I started realizing my abilities, it just becomes part of your everyday life, and it's natural. It's just
Yes,
a natural way of walking through your day. So thank you. Yeah, that makes total sense. So can you tell us maybe a little bit about how? I know you mentioned in your bio that when you were young, you realized that things, just maybe don't look right in your world, and there was something different going on with you than maybe around your world, and I can also relate to. So can you share a little bit about that and how you handled
I
that?
can. It was what I recognized was about my early teens. I was brought up in a good family. We had a good family connection. But as I was going about the world in school and church and just around my daily life, I I, I saw or recognized the word I used is this is bizarro world. This is not the way it should be, and to me that was from a remembrance of something else other than this life, this lifetime, and being in this physical body at this time. Um, I never told many people about that at the time. I just kind of tucked it away and said, I don't know what to do or how to change it or what it's supposed to be, but this isn't right. People aren't interacting with people the way they should be. There isn't the integrity, there isn't the honesty, there isn't the openness. Um, I, I witnessed or observed what I saw as a lot of hypocrisy
Mhm.
in the churches, people coming to church and, um, you know, quote unquote, asking forgiveness for their sins, but then going out Monday and doing exactly the same thing they had done the week before.
Yeah.
Um, and I think a lot of people began to see that. So as I began to mentally be aware of that perspective, uh, I started. That was what started me seeking a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I found in school another situation that added to it. I found in school that I forgot what class it might have been. It might have been science. It might have been history. Um, and they were asking us to focus on one particular situation. And I said, well, that's related to this other event over here that you're not talking about. And they would say, no, 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 ignore that. Focus on this one little bit right here. But you can't ignore this. It's part of it. So I began to realize that I had a perspective that included a bigger picture of things,
Mm-hmm.
um, that included the connections of events and sequences that helped an event be what it is. And I got to say, it took me quite a while to recognize that. I mean, 20, 30, 40 years of all the exploring that I did to
Mm-hmm.
find the verbiage
Mm-hmm.
to go back and look at and go, oh, yeah, that's what it is. I now see a lot of events, and this is a metaphor rather than exact. It's like a light of Christmas tree lights going off of all these different connections to
Sure.
other events and other people that are related to the event or situation I'm looking at directly in front of me.
Sure.
Um,
Perfect.
the um, the concept of the Cheshire cat looking down on a
Mm-hmm.
situation
Mm-hmm.
from a tree, became to be a lot of the perspective that I could personally begin to understand. I would see the bigger picture and see where, as an example, a couple had an argument at home and then came to work and they had an argument with their coworker. So it wasn't
Right.
the situation in the work situation, it was the event at home that triggered the emotional state for the person to be in.
They
And
carried
I
that
can
into
see
their,
that. I,
yeah.
I can make that connection and perceive it um, when I'm looking at a lot of different situations. So that was the beginning. Um, and then it moved into just in my late teens. I first was introduced to palmistry. I had my palms read,
Mm-hmm.
and I was intrigued,
Mm-hmm.
and I began to explore just randomly different things around spirituality, um, and was more intrigued by that than I was by the religion I was brought up in.
Nice.
Where do you want to
Yeah,
go from
thank you.
there?
No, yeah, thank you for sharing that. Yeah, I love that what you shared about being able to perceive or see how everything's connected, right? And now quantum science and quantum physics and the holographic universe theory and everything like that is showing us just
Even more so,
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, that's the butterfly effect type of thing. Yeah, I love that.
You know,
It's it.
it's been that the last 20 plus years that I really have had or found the terminology and the concepts that I was aware of in my youth. Um, it took a very long time to really find those words that fit the sensation or the feeling or the awareness.
Sure.
And that was a lot of my own journey, was just trying to figure out those feelings and sensations, because they weren't
Yeah.
taught in church, they weren't taught in school,
Nobody's talking
um,
about it, right?
and there was no one around me that I knew of that was aware of those kind of things. So I just had to kind of dig around and see what I could find.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So were you able to find books and study material, that helped you with that, or was it something that you had an inner, you studied with your inner guidance, or or beings,
Well,
or both?
even that, learning about my inner guidance and that team of non-physical beings didn't happen until the 90s for me.
Mm-hmm.
So that again was another 30 plus years.
Okay.
Um, in my early 20s, I had two revelations that were presented to me, that I kind of used as life choices, or guidelines for life choices. And one of them was that we had the opportunity, all of humanity, this is when I was 21, um, all of humanity had the opportunity to live to over 100, possibly to 500, and again, possibly to 1,000 years
Yeah.
in this lifetime, and live healthy, happy, aware, awake, and productive.
Mm-hmm.
That was presented that early in my life. And it was just something that had a feeling that it was correct, it was true, there
Mm-hmm.
was truth to it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I also recognized there was a condition to that, that each of us had to make choices within our life that got more and more in alignment with having a healthy body, an awake mind, and connected to our senses. It wasn't. It was not going to just happen because we are here.
Mm-hmm.
We had to put intention to it.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
in the the other thing around that time was I looked at the concept of life insurance, and I saw or got that that was a programming to death. They're
Mm-hmm.
telling you over and over again, you're going to die, you're going to die, you're going to die. You need to prepare, you need to prepare, you need to prepare. And I decided at that point I wasn't going to carry life insurance because I didn't want that programming as a part of the rest of my life.
Mm-hmm.
If I can live to 100, 150, 500, why do I want to constantly program that I'm going to die at some point in time?
Yeah.
So that was two things. It wasn't until the mid 80s and about 20 years later, 15 to 20 years later, that I really started doing a lot of reading. And that's when I really explored all those topics that you read in my introduction. palmistry, handwriting. I was fascinated by reincarnation, past lives. I was fascinated by ghosts. UFOs was always a part of it, and always trying to find new and fresh information on that. And when I got to the mid 80s, you want me to keep talking? Because I know I'm covering
Okay.
a lot
No,
of
that's
things
okay.
that you might want to ask.
No, go ahead. I was going to ask you if you would mind sharing a paranormal experience, because I know you've had some. Maybe after you finish this thought.
Well, all of this that I'm talking about is actually leading up to that.
Okay.
I really didn't have any awareness to
Awesome.
paranormal experiences personally until the early 90s. And going back to the mid 80s, I started really focusing on energy healing and energy work. William Rand's books, Barbara Brennan's books, Carolyn Miss's books, all about intuitive awareness of energy and how it heals the body. As a part of the paranormal experience that first kind of validated that for me, I had an experience with my mom who sadly died of cancer in 1991. I forgot exactly which year. And I had gone back home after studying these other energetic topics and tried to use some of that techniques with my mom in the hospital. And she wasn't lucid at the time. She was in a lot of pain, really wasn't very conscious of things a lot. And I tried one of the techniques, and she kind of raised up a little bit and almost screaming, yelling, "What's going on? What are you doing?"
Wow.
And when I pulled my hands away from what I was doing, she faded right back out again.
Oh, yeah.
So that was a validation to me that this concept that I had lots of doubts about that was even feasible was having the impact on my mom's body and soul to bring her soul back into the body she was trying to leave. And that was not something that she really wanted at that point in time. So that was one of the first things. As the 80s became the 90s, I had been studying all this stuff for 20, 30 years. And I said, well, if I believe that this is really a part of my life and who I am, I'm going to go start doing things that are actually doing this in the world. And I went and started working at a metaphysical bookstore. And I got in helping them just do computer work, do the ordering of books and things. And I had one of the people there was Wiccan. So Wiccan became a lot more in my awareness. And I studied some of that, witchcraft and magic and all those other things that were, very typical books in the bookstore. And she walked up to me one day and said, "You got 15 minutes. You're going to teach a class." And I'm putting it in the newsletter. So give me the class that you're going to do.
Wow.
And I did it on karmic healing because that was kind of how I saw what energy work was. It was helping us release karmic trauma that was being still held within us.
Yeah.
From that, as things developed, I kind of, let me backtrack. I had, in that same period of time, like everybody, wanted to figure out what my life was about. And I ended up going to and having a lot of tarot readings done, psychic readings, both in person and over the phone. And I got tired of people saying the same thing. Some of them would say on a regular basis, "You're psychic, you could do this." I said, yeah, I've heard that. Tell me something else, something new that I haven't heard. And I finally realized that I didn't want to spend a lot more money on those other people. And in that same 5 to 6 years from the mid 80s to the early 90s, I started playing around with the tarot decks myself.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was at the store, I actually picked up several decks and worked with them and started practicing with them. I ended up doing my first reading for somebody else. Believe it or not, I was delivering pizzas at Pizza Hut, and I took the deck of cards in to work and did some readings for the other people there.
Oh, funny. I
And they
love it.
loved it.
I love it. Yeah. I did that at my
Um,
last mainstream job. I would bring my cards in. Yeah, the oracle cards though, and do readings for people. Yeah, it was a manufacturing company. I was the HR manager and accounting manager, which that's
what
kind of
are you doing
different.
with tarot cards?
Yeah, yeah, totally. They were oracle cards. Yeah, but it was fun. People loved it.
They did, and it gave me confidence to start working with it more and more to actually do readings for others. As
Yeah.
it turned out, I moved around to several different metaphysical stores and going in as a reader. Um, so some of the paranormal experiences, when I was at Pizza Hut, there was a woman that to me was of black magic and was using things on a negative way and wanted to connect with me and told me that I was psychic. But all the feelings I got from her were very negative.
Mm.
Um, and it was a result of that. There was one time I was at home and I was actually preparing to move to another apartment from the one I was in. And I was boxing things up. Um, there was two things. And I'm in my bedroom and I'm standing at the door of the bedroom and I'm suddenly looking across the diagonal corner, Indian in full uh, ceremonial dress. So it was the headdress and a white, most likely leather, soft leather smock and pants.
Wow.
And this being, and I say perceive because it was difficult to tell if I was actually seeing it or just perceiving it in my
Mhm.
mind.
Mhm.
But I would say that there was someone really there.
Mhm.
And this being conveyed to me a lot about the Native American approach to things. And he said that we take care of our own on both sides of the veil. So when something is needed on the physical plane, those in the spiritual plane will support them.
Mm.
And we use any tool available to us, which includes, by some definitions, black magic.
Hmm.
So the Native American used energy and magic and the elemental energies um, much more commonly than we do. And this wasn't a threat. This wasn't a watch and beware. It was simply to convey an awareness to me so that I understood the Native American concept. And he gave me a name, and I never knew who it was until I went months later, and
Hey,
it was
Rich,
White Eagle.
White Eagle? Oh, yeah, I work
Yeah.
with White Eagle. Yeah, nice. So, can you describe for me, sorry to interrupt you, but can you describe for me what you consider to be black magic or the difference between, white magic and black magic? I'm not a Wiccan practitioner, so I wouldn't know.
And I'm not either.
Yeah.
I explored it, looked at magic, and I see things that we can be using, but aren't. The biggest difference I see is intent. So, what are you going to do with your ability to draw energy, to put your focus on something, to
Mm-hmm.
create a spell? So, talk about a spell for just a little bit. A spell is repeated words with a particular intent that has been used over and over again, thousands to millions of times over extended amount of centuries or millennia.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of the spells they get modified by individuals, but they have an intent, and the words used have an intent behind it. And but every time the words are repeated, that intent is multiplied. Now, a prayer in church is just as much the same thing,
Right.
but it has more or less a different intent to it.
Or a
It's
prayer
asking for
that
help.
you're right, or a prayer that you're saying yourself. It doesn't necessarily have to be in church. It can be
Right,
when you're praying. And the
right.
more energy you put behind it, the more energy it has. Correct? Would that make sense?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. Not only the energy behind it, but the words and the meanings of the words and the impacts of the words themselves
Okay.
gain energetic impact.
Mm-hmm.
Magic and black magic is, what is your intent to use with it? Are you trying to harm somebody? Are you trying to cause um, some kind of, are you trying to manipulate somebody? Are you trying to control? Used to be a lot of kids, gals, girls would use magic spells to draw a lover to or a boyfriend.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's black magic, actually, because you're manipulating someone else's free will. Um, where correct magic is putting out, as we know it, intent and manifestation is putting out the intent and allowing the universe to draw that to you rather than specifically try to pull one particular situation or scenario or person to you, which then becomes this claw and manipulation of trying to hold or retain somebody or something.
Okay.
You get the difference there?
Yeah.
Um,
So even if your intention is you want this person to love you or to be with you, and you love this person, but they don't love you like you love them, or that you see
right.
that, and your intention is to put a spell out there to have them pay attention to you or be, or fall in love with you, that that's what you would consider black magic.
It crosses the line from free will to manipulation.
Gotcha.
And as soon as you cross that line from free will to manipulation, then you've moved to the dark side of control.
I see. That makes sense.
So
So intention,
that's
pretty
the
much
biggest.
intention is everything, and I understand that. Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
yeah. And there's lots of different spells, tools, herbs, etc. that the wiccan, the witchcraft use that create situations of a darker energy.
What about this? So, what about using uh, angelic beings, perhaps to, for abundance, or to or things like that, or to create a situation where you get a job, or create, I don't even know, maybe have someone love you or something like that, or a romantic relationship, or create a romantic relationship, bring love to you. But I understand what you're saying. There's a fine line there, because there's do you know what I mean? I mean, this it's kind of, we could talk all day about this. Where do you go with what's good and what's bad, right?
Well, you and I both have talked about it in our conversations that manifestation
Mm-hmm.
is putting out an intent and magnetizing that to you. In
Right.
other words, you're not putting out a a specific instruction of who, what, and how that manifestation is and how it comes to you. You're allowing nature and the natural alignment of vibrations and frequencies to align and resonate and then be drawn to one another.
Sure.
So all those things where you have an intent for love or a job or more abundance, if you're using a more natural resonance and alignment, You're definitely working with the light and light beings. Um, but if you're trying to say, I want this specific situation, I want this specific person, I want them to love me in this particular way,
Yeah.
um, not all you're doing is you're imposing your desires onto someone and something in some situation. And I say imposing because you're not giving the other person in the other situation any room to move, to choose
Hmm.
anything different. So for
Yeah.
me, as soon as you do that, you've moved into the darker approach of using magic.
Yeah.
You've moved into manipulation and control.
Yeah, I understand it. I see that as, I guess wanting to be in control rather than trusting the universe knows what's best and guidance, or your higher self knows what's best for you. And you can put a, I feel, because I've worked with manifestation and abundance and teach classes on it also, that if you put out there what you want, there's nothing wrong with that, but then let it go and trust that the universe has your back and the universe always hears our prayers. But like you said, don't expect, it to everything to turn out exactly like you want it to, and put it in that narrow that narrow box of control.
So these lead into two experiences that I had
Uh-huh.
that were more the paranormal. And one of them was from the lady at when I was working at Pizza Hut. I came home at night about 1 o'clock. I was out for the evening. Came home, pretty much went right to bed. Now, in the apartment I was living in, I had a bedroom here and a living room here, and the kitchen was in the living room area. So there was a door right here, and the windows were right here and over here. So if you were going to create a draft, it would go through this way. In the bedroom, my bed was back up against the wall this way, facing the window.
Okay.
And at that particular time, I had a big wind chime hanging at the end of my bed. I got into bed and there was no winds. It was a calm, balmy summer night. The windows were open, but there was no breeze. And within a couple of minutes, that wind chime clanged as if someone hit it with their shoulder. And then I couldn't move my head off on my pillow.
Oh, wow.
Now, I learned that in the process of some of the things at the first metaphysical bookstore and working with the Wiccan people, um, oh yeah, that if you claim you are of the light and demand that they leave, the dark energies have to leave. Now, it is my assumption whoever was sent to me, an energetic being of some sort, was sent to me by this woman in Pizza Hut
Mm.
as an attempt to um, manipulate and control me, to scare me, to see how strong I was, to test
Huh.
me.
Okay.
And she was of Native American um, background, which is then why White Eagle showed up to talk about,
Mm.
how they worked with one another. So she put out a request of some sort and asked the Native American people to also participate that in on both sides of the veil. So if you're in
Mm.
the physical and in the non-physical. So somebody, something showed up and tried to, as I say, my perspective on it, I never confronted her about it, but it definitely was someone that was trying to put fear in me to test how strong I was, to see if I had the abilities. Um, so that was one of the more negative paranormal scenarios where there was never anything physical seen, but the definite noise of the wind chime was literally as if someone hit it with their shoulder, as if
Yeah.
they didn't see it,
Wow.
and clanged against it.
So
So
would you say? Go
those
ahead.
two situations, the White Eagle showing up and that negative situation, were actually tied together in a relatively short period of time.
I see. Would you say does your intuition tell you that White Eagle was warning you, or just telling you? Because White Eagle, I understand, is an ascended being, the ascended master. So would you say that
There
he
was
was warning you?
no, it was information.
Information. Okay.
It was, I'm just telling you this so you understand how the Native American energy and concepts work.
I
It's
see.
not a threat. I'm not trying to warn you. Just be aware and know for yourself that this is how and what can take place.
Hmm.
So it was, I would say it was very much an ascended master's perspective.
Sure.
There was no emotion in it.
Sure.
It was much more about a factual situation,
Mm-hmm.
but it was definitely there to help give me a perspective if I didn't have it already.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's pretty
And
profound.
interestingly enough, I went to another bookstore and there was another Wiccan woman working there and had a store within a store. So it was a big metaphysical store, and she had a back, an old home, had one of the bedrooms was a smaller Wiccan store within the store.
Hmm.
And next to it was another bedroom that was used for doing readings or healing work or whatever, and also used a lot by the person that had the store as her reading room. And I was thinking at one point that I wanted to maybe use that room as my own office, my own reading, my own healing spot within the store. I've been doing classes there. I've been doing psychic fairs there. Um, the person that was there was a woman. Had a lot of good feelings about her, um, but when I started to cross over and want some information or want to have a desire for that room, I was sitting in the kitchen area of the house, and I'm looking down the hallway to those two rooms, her store on the right and the other one on the left. And there appeared a woman in front of the doorway, dressed in normal clothes, never said anything, but definitely gave me the impression is, no, you won't.
Wow.
Now, the correlation is it was most likely the mother of the woman who, by circumstances, ended up falling down the stairs of that house and ended up dying from the fall.
The mother did?
Not in the house, I think, at the house, the mother.
Oh, wow.
And I'm pretty sure it was her mother that came and warned me that the choice I was considering was not going to be something that was going to happen.
Huh.
That she was guarding it and her daughter was guarding it.
Okay. Well, that's interesting. You get any reason why? What's her problem?
Well, she
Just
was working with her daughter, and her
okay.
daughter had already set her intention, even though a white witch by her own acclamation. I still found that she used dark magic.
Mm,
And she had put her claims on that room. She had energetically claimed it, and I'm sure she used some kind of spell as a way of claiming that space for her.
I see.
Spell being all of her intentions of who and what and how she would use it, and the clients that would be drawn to her and that room, so that she would continue to have abundance.
You're talking about the mother or
So
the daughter? Or
the
the daughter.
daughter,
Okay, and the mother was helping her.
the mother, energetic or paranormally was helping. Yes,
Yeah, from
I
the
didn't
spirit.
know. I never knew her. I never met her. It happened before
Right.
I ever got there,
Do you think
and
she
I
was stuck
never.
on the earth plane?
No, she came back. That one definitely came back as a way to just be working with her daughter.
I see. Okay. Wow, that's
Um,
profound.
so those are
Very
the
cool.
couple of paranormal ones that I've had. Um,
Well, that's cool. Let's talk a little
I
bit.
could go through a number of others.
Oh, I'm sure you could. We could talk all day about our experiences, right? So, can you talk a little bit about numerology and what drew you to it, and share a little bit
Well, I
about it?
first started with the tarot, looking for answers for myself.
Okay.
And I liked the tarot, but I didn't really resonate with it. Tarot is good for looking at life situations. Is this the right job? Am I in the right place? What's happening around me? What am I doing? What should I be doing? Um, so it's good for answering those more nebulous questions a lot of times.
Hmm.
You can get into specifics with it. As I started exploring all those other things, as I got into the metaphysical stores, I came across numerology, and as I looked at it, I also looked at astrology. So, you do your chart, you look at it, and astrology takes and sets you up from your birth date, and then you use that as kind of a guide all the way through your life. You can do a progression for the time you're at right now and get an update of it, but it's still all based on that one scenario. So as I looked at numerology, one of the things I liked about it, it was always in the now. You were always looking at things right now with whatever situation you're in. So numerology, what is numerology about? It's using the letters of the alphabet, assign the numbers 1 through 9 repetitively until it runs out. So it goes through it 2 1/3 times. So you go up 1 through 9, 1 through 9, and then that's 3 or 4 letters that are left over.
Okay.
Maybe I think it's 6. So each of the numbers has let's say, an archetypal type of significance to it. It has a meaning. Not unlike a Virgo or an Aquarius or a Capricorn. They all have characteristics to it. Letters form words, and words become power, as we've been talking about already.
Right.
So as you begin to understand that there's a vibration to that word, well, how do you figure out what the vibration is? You begin to assign the letters, the numbers, and see what the significance is. So you take a word like love, and you look at L and O and B and E, and I don't have it right offhand. It's 3, 6. I'm guessing at this right now. 5, 5.
Is that a
So
10?
what about? It's 3, 6, and 10 would be 19 using those numbers
1
just to
and 9 is
explore it.
10. 1 and 9 is 10.
And 1 and 9 is 10, but
And that would be a 1.
and that would be a 1. So it'd be that is an example, and it's probably not accurate. The 1 would be very individualized, the strong individual, confident, self-assured individual, most likely. That doesn't sound like what love should be, so I'm pretty sure the numbers are not right.
Or maybe 1. All we are one. Love is all. We are one.
Well,
That just
again,
came to mind.
it's yeah, you can start to look at it. So what I found is the numbers represented the situation, the person right now. So if you go by Sharon, Sharon might be different than what I'll use my name.
My
So
nickname.
my
Yeah.
formal name is Richard from birth.
Mm-hmm.
I was referred to as Dick for most of my teenage years.
Mm-hmm.
And from my 30s on, I changed it to Rich. So each one of those has a different vibration to it, a different significance to it.
Yeah, I don't blame you
So
for
as you
changing it.
claim it, yeah, me neither.
I just had to throw that in there. I mean, I couldn't
I
let
could
that
never
pass.
figure out how that one came up. It made no sense. Rick would, but not.
Yeah, yeah.
Not So in the moment, when you look at using numerology, you're looking at what name the person is using the most. What's the word they're repeating the most? Like we were talking about spells earlier.
Yeah.
So that's creating an energy and an input out to the rest of the world on a very regular basis. Every time you say it, every time you write it, every time someone addresses you, they're using your name. So that's carrying a very much in the moment kind of vibrational um, frequency uh, that is being read, expressed, and reacted to. And I think that's different than what astrology does.
Mm-hmm.
The way I do it, first off, is I look at what the person's name is that they're using, and we find out what their numbers are around that. Um, and that number, whatever that end number is, I also describe a lot of the in between numbers. But whatever the end number is, becomes the tuning fork that you are. So every time you hit a tuning fork, it goes ding, and it sends a vibration out, right?
Right.
Well, a tuning fork will hit up against other, let's say it's a C note, it will hit up against other C notes and they will begin to resonate. And then that resonating vibration starts to come back to you. So it's a way of recognizing from the vibrations sent out that you start to draw back to you the same resonance as what you're sending out.
Mm.
So you can start looking at the things that are around you and seeing how well they resonate with you.
Mm-hmm.
How does your partner resonate with you? What's that person's tuning fork versus your tuning fork?
Mm-hmm.
How does your home address resonate with your tuning fork? How does the business name that you decided on resonate with who you are and or the intent you have around your business? How does the new location that you want to move to, the next city, the next state, the next country, how does that resonate with who you are and how you claim yourself right now?
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I like to do with numerology. It
Nice.
really begins to show people that as you understand who you are and your characteristics and your abilities and the things that you're drawing upon, um, if you're not in resonance with it, you're in dissonance with it, you're in conflict with it. So it's not going to be a happy, joyful situation. So if you want happy and joyful, find the things that resonate with you.
Okay.
The other thing I found in numerology is it helps as you get the numbers are assigned to your name. Let's use that as the example. Um, the different amount of numbers indicates strongly different things that are either your challenges or your greatest abilities. So, one, um, are you very confident? Are you very self assured? Are you independent? And if you are, great, that can be very helpful for you. A five is someone that is going to want some change in their lives and want to be able to bring about change. A seven is someone who's always going to be looking at what's the story behind the story. Tell me more information because you haven't told me everything. I
Mm-hmm.
want to know what hasn't been presented. Um, and when you're lacking a number, you're also lacking the ability or the significance of that number. So if no one has a two in their name, they're probably going to find personal relationships difficult because they have no resource for that.
Mm.
They're going to be starting fresh to figure out what it is to get into relationships. They have no background, they have no backlog that they're drawing on. So the numbers actually show you what you bring through from other lifetimes, your skills, your abilities, and your intents that help you show you what you're going to have more challenges with and things you're going to have greater success with.
Oh, cool.
So all those things become evident as you
Mm-hmm.
start to explore numerology. And I just found it more fascinating than astrology or the tarot,
Uh-huh.
that in this moment I can say, well, I figured out who I am and I figured out who you are, and we're gonna do this right now. As you think, as you feel, as you journey in life, we're gonna bump heads. But
Right.
this person over here, I'm gonna blend with. This situation, I'm gonna blend with. This other one, I'm gonna bump heads with. So it's
Right.
always about what's happening right now in your world around, and giving you a picture and a perspective that helps you make choices and decisions in whatever way you want to move,
Oh,
whatever
okay.
direction you want to go.
Yeah, that's fascinating. So if someone watching now, people watching, if they took their name and just deduced the numbers down to one number, or take each number in their name and look at that, and they could, of course, contact you for any kind of interpretation, since you do that, right? And but is that kind of what you're saying, is deduce, take the numbers in your name and also deduce it down to one number as well? Both?
Well, that's what most people do with numerology. I really look at every number and every combination.
Okay, right.
Um,
Gotcha.
so it's like the one number is kind of looking at the book title, and all the other combinations in between are looking at all the chapters
Oh,
that
yeah, I like that.
describe more about who you are.
Perfect.
So I look at it all, but most people wouldn't go through it with the depth that I do when they're first becoming familiar with it.
Nice.
But if you can figure out that you add all your numbers up and you're a seven, as I said, seven is the unseen, the unknown, the occult, the hidden, and you're going to be looking for what's been hidden, what's been not revealed.
Hmm.
Is Paul Harvey used to say, "Tell me the rest of the story."
Right.
That would be a seven.
You're showing your
But
age.
if I haven't done that by now,
All right. So we're about out of
well,
time here, Rich. So I want to talk about your creating spaces gig. Can you share a little bit about that?
well, I've done lots of things in my life, as I've talked about: graphic design, commercial art, photography. Sold furniture for a while, studied architecture, and then I studied all the spiritual aspect, the energy and the sensing of energy, um, the sensing of energy within a space, around a person, and around objects. At this point in my life, I really feel I'm kind of in my what I'm supposed to be doing. And what I end up doing now is helping create spaces and places for people. Now, I find working out in the yard is a lot more flexible. So a lot of it has been out in the yard, creating outdoor rooms, um, local little places for meditation, sitting areas, and helping create an ambiance around that.
Hmm.
So it's an incorporation of aesthetics, the visual aspect of it, proportions, scaling of things, uh, location of things, positioning of things, a feng shui concept, and a um, Japanese home and garden concept is all about location. Um, so at this point, I put it all together and I use all those skills to help create something aesthetically pleasing. That's by selecting plants and trees and bushes and shrubs that add to the ambiance, bringing in artifacts that help create visual intrigue, but also have an energetic signature
Hmm.
that adds to it.
Nice.
Um, so does this particular bench that you're interested in having there, does it add or subtract to the overall feeling of
Hmm.
it? Does this shade pergola create the coziness that you want? Is it big and bulky and kind of out of place, or is it in proportion?
Mm-hmm.
Does it feel natural? So it's a lot about bringing aesthetics and energetic signatures to help create a space. And it can be indoors or outdoors. So I've redone rooms. I've recreated fireplace enclosures. I've redone bathrooms, and every step is always about how does this feel
Mm-hmm.
and how does it look.
Nice.
Feeling is very much about the energy.
Totally.
Does this object, this vibration, um, fit with everything else that's in the room or in the space or in
So
the
you,
area?
yeah. So you use your energetic skills and abilities to mold the space and use the material world to create a harmony and balance with your projects. Does that make sense?
And intrigue.
Intrigue. Okay.
Make it
Yeah.
interesting.
Okay. Great.
You don't want to go into a space and place that's boring and monotonous.
Right.
You want to look around. You want to look around and be surprised
Well, I saw the dragon
by.
you created yeah, the banister, hand banister, or
Yes.
yeah, that was amazing. Yeah, totally. So before we close, thank you for sharing that. Can you, using numerology, can you maybe give us some insights on what 2021 might be in store for us?
How much time do we have?
Oh, no, right. Hey, it can only get better, right? So hopefully.
No, literally, right now, how much time do we have?
Oh,
So,
oh, really? Oh, 5 minutes.
um, a quick summary. I need to go back to 1900s. The 1900s was the one and the nine together. So it was all about the individual coming to the nine, which was about learning about being more humanitarian, completing all the cycles, um, coming up to higher perspectives, gaining wisdom and knowledge through all the experiences. All of that has actually prepared us for the 2000s. And 2000s is a two, which is about interacting one on one with each other. And for it's not just with us personally, it's one on one with countries, it's one on one with businesses, it's one on one with other cities. So it's all going to be the whole 2000s is about much more of interacting in a beneficiary way to support one another in close connections rather than the group, the the corporation. Instead of separating people, it's going to be a lot more about coming together. So 2020 has actually, in a lot of ways, brought a lot of people together through
Mm.
all the different circumstances, but not in the way they would have expected, for sure. Um, so 2021, we have two leading the millennium, and the 20 leading the decade. So again, there's going to be even more of a focus right now about connecting with one another, but also helping one another become the one, the more self confident individual, the more productive individual, the raising up of awareness so there's greater self assuredness. So I think what we're looking at is people beginning to really recognize it's not about just themselves, it's about helping one another become the best that they can be.
Nice.
So the two leading the one is different than the one leading the two.
Mm.
So the two leads into the one. The numbers all add up to five. So it's going to be a year of change, but it's also going to be a year of having to need a lot of freedom and flexibility to make changes. Now the question will be, the challenge will be, will that be allowed?
Hmm.
The year is going to support change, and it's going to be looking for more freedom and more flexibility, but it's also going to be challenging people of how well they interact with one another. How well do you connect with one another? How well do you support one another? How well do you build up one another? If you're good at it, life will be easy for you. If you're poor at that, the year is probably going to be very challenging. So that's what I would say. And that applies to not just the individuals, but it's going to apply to our government,
Mm-hmm.
our, all the parties, all the political stuff. It's just going to be in every area. It's going to echo out that same kind of thing. How well are we supporting one another? How well do we love one another? How well do we interact? How well can we interact?
I love that.
And pointing out when we're not interacting in good, healthy ways.
Mm-hmm. I love
So
that. Yeah.
that'll all come up.
So kind of pulling back the curtain if we're not acting in our highest integrity, maybe.
Well, I think the good thing is that adding the 1 versus the 2020,
Mm-hmm.
it's going to help people recognize it's helping each other become better.
Right.
Where right now it's just about how are we interacting with each other
I see.
and just multiplying that energy.
Nice. Well, I'm looking forward to that. 2020's been a ride. It's still, I mean, it's still going on, but
Yes.
boy, is it a ride. Okay. I mean, we're here for a reason, right? And this is it. Yeah. The big reason. It's a ride. So
It is a journey for sure.
it's a journey. Yeah, it's a journey. So thank you, Rich. It's always fun to chat and catch up. And if you could just share, I will put your information. I'll have your information below. But if you could just share how people can get a hold of you if they want to, get a hold of you, contact you about any of your gifts and abilities. Because you do sessions, correct?
You, I do
And you
them,
have,
but I'm not doing them on a regular basis. So
okay. But you've got your
the
space
readings, I,
business. Yeah.
the readings I do pretty much as people want.
Hmm.
Any healing sessions are very specifically when they're ready for the right person at the right time.
Okay.
But if people are interested, I'm glad to do them. I
So your
think the best
email?
way to contact me is through my email is
Hmm.
mystic, MIMYSTIC dot the word 1 ONE at yahoo.com. That's probably the best way I'd like to get contacted. You've got the website or websites that
Hmm.
you can post.
Sure.
Um,
Yes.
if you're interested in my energy and healing work, you can go to a consciousbeing.weebly.com, and there's more information and descriptions there. If you're interested in my space creations and other creative projects, go to spaces-n-places.weebly.com, and you'll get
Perfect.
more information there.
Perfect. Well, thank you, and thank you everyone for joining us. And Rich, have a wonderful day. And
Sharon, thank you very much. I
you're
really
welcome.
appreciate the opportunity to describe all these things, to
Yeah.
give my story to other people so they might see some of their own similarities and go explore some new things.
Nice. Thank you. And we'll connect again. I'm doing lots of these videos and even group discussions as well. So yeah.
Sounds good.
Okay. All right. Take care. Bye bye.